This is Gemara in Yevamos Daf Chav Aleph.
All the learning has been generously sponsored as a schos for the new couple, Yosef ben Chana, Vodelia Bracha Bas Tamar Chaya, Mirtashem. The learning of the entire Chabura as we're concluding Yevamos should bring them an incredible start to their marriage, and only bracha, tzlacha, and only amazing things.
Both learning should bring an incredible schos for Shlema, for Shmuel Yosef ben Henry, afraid of Shmuel ben Tidila, Nafsal Yimich Les El Chamber Asriva. So our Bluma Basmil Chaim Yeshua ben Malka Chableva Sardino Shavik Sheikhana Besoich Sha'ar Chali Yisrael, and here we are on the second to last day of a pretty much 4-month journey. Baruch Hashem, through this incredible Masechta of Yevamos. Definitely started off quite rough. It had its certainly difficult parts, but here we are, the second to last day. Kov Chav Aleph Amid Aleph. We're holding 3 lines down, in which we quote the Mishnah that says, Rav Yehuda Aimer, that Rav Yehuda teaches us, Loi Kol. Rav Yehuda ben Bava says, not everything is equal. You can't make rules about when one is going to die, when is not going to die, based on specific scenarios. So ask the Gemara, Yibayilu, the Gemara asks the Shaila. Rav Yehuda ben Bava, Likula Palik, Oilu Chomer Palik. What is Rav Yehuda ben Bava coming to say? Is Rav Yehuda ben Bava, when he said in the Mishnah that you have to give the Eidos within 3 days, is that a Kula or is that a Chumrah? So says the Gemara Tashema, let's try to understand this. Ta'u Gavra Detava Bekarmi. There was a certain man that what happened? He drowned. Detava Bekarmi. He drowned in the town of Karmi. Vaskua Be Hedya Lebasar Tlasa Yomim. And what happened after 3 days? He was brought ashore. Allowed his wife to marry. So even though the corpse came up only after 3 days, still they allowed his wife to remarry. And furthermore, there was a man that drowned in the Digeles river, and he was brought up on the shore of the Shavstina bridge, and Rava allowed his wife to remarry. So says the Gemara, even after 5 days. So explains the Gemara, if Rav Yehuda ben Bava is coming to comment on the Tana Kama and say, no, not only can you give Eidos out within 3 days, if you recognize the body even after more, so then these 2 brises fit with Rav Yehuda ben Bava. But if Rav Yehuda ben Bava was coming to limit, then these brises that said even after 5 days you can still give Eidos and allow the wife to remarry, who are they going like? Says the Gemara, no, Raya. Shiny Mayo did Samsi, because these cases were in water, and therefore water contracts the body, water retains the freshness of the body, allowing one to give Eidos on a dead corpse even after 3 days. Amr asked the Gemara yesterday's daf, we learned Maya Marzi Maka. Yesterday we said water makes it worse. The case where the leg got chopped off, and we said water precludes cauterization, water messes it up. So why are you telling me water makes it better? Explains the Gemara, Hani Mili Dika Maka, like a Maka Mimsa Samis. When there's a Maka, the water agitates the wound. When there's no Maka, then it preserves. Hani Mili Chazgi Chazgi B'Shaite. It says the Gemara, this is only where the corpse was seen B'Shaite within an hour of when it came up. But if it was left waiting on the shore for more than an hour, then we assume that the body was bloated and was not able to be recognized after such an amount of time. And we continue with different cases, different identifying details of one who is nifter. Says the Mishnah, if one falls into the water, Rahman al-Islan, whether it's a water that has an end, doesn't have an end, we'll see. Water without an end, it just keeps it going and going. You can't see the end of it. With an end is that it's a smaller pond that you can see all 4 sides. The halacha is Ishtoy Asura. And it came after 3 days. There was a suma, a blind person went to Taival in a cave, and they went after the blind person to see what was going on. And what happened? And they waited the amount of time as the blind person didn't come out of the water that they assumed he died. And they allowed his wife to get married based on that. Another story, was lowered into the ocean, and they found his leg after some time. So says the Gemara, let's delve a bit deeper into this brisa. Tanu Rabbana Novel Mayim Beach Lam Saivin Shilam Saif Ishta Asura Liver Amir B'Chamer Mayim Shishlam Saif Ishta Mutar Shilam Saif Ishta Asura. Basically restating the din of the Mishnah. So now says the Gemara the obvious question: Echidami Mayim Shishlam Saif. What does this mean? Water with an end, water without an end. Amar Abaya. Kol Sha'im Made V'Raya Me'Arba Ruchaisaf. If you could stand and you could see all four corners like a lake, you could see the whole thing. That Mayim Sheyesh Lem Saif, it has an end. If you can't see all four corners, then that is Mayim She'ein Lem Saif. Ahu Gavra the Tava Ba'agma the Samki. There was a person that drowned on the edge of the Samkil River. And that's what Rav Shila Devis Rav Shila allowed his wife to remarry. Amalei Rav L'Shmuel Hanishmasei. So Rav said to Shmuel, I don't understand. Hanishamte. Rav Shila should go into Chayrim. Amar Lei Nishach Le Bereisha. Let's first talk to him. So Shalach Le Mayim She'ein Lem Saif Ishta Asura Meitaris. So they asked him, what's going on? Mayim she'ein lem saif, that you can't see the edge of the water. Is the wife allowed or not? And of course, it comes out a bit counterintuitive that if the water has no end, she'ein lem saif, then we can't assume that you saw the body drowned because maybe it was washed ashore, maybe the person's still alive. So ask the Gemara, Mayim she'ein lem saif, is the wife allowed to get remarried or not? So Shalach Lei responded, Ishta Asura. And so they said, interesting. V'agma de Samki, in the case that you just ruled, you see the way you ask one, if he's paskin the Shaila, you don't just attack him. You ask him, what would the halacha be? And you ask him, what's the halacha of Agmi de Samki, the river of the Samki, Mayim Sheish Lem Saif, and Mayim Shein Lem Saif? What is that categorized at? Shalach lahu, he responded, Mayim Shein Lem Saif. So based on what he just said, what shall halacha be? The wife should be Aser, and yet he himself allowed the wife to remarry. Shein Lem Saifu. They said, now, Omar, my time off at Achi, why did you let the wife remarry? And he responded, you are correct. Admit te'ina. No, you see the gadlos. He admitted he made a mistake. Anos Avri. Now he explains. Anos Avri, I thought, given the kavu v'kaimi, k'vay shlem ne'ishlem saif, because they're stagnant waters, therefore they're like water shishlem saif, that they have an end that you can see what's going on. Dami v'loy is not true. Kimadika gali, since there are waves, emar gali ashbalu. We could assume that perhaps a wave sent him down somewhere else, and therefore you won't be able to see him, and therefore Batsam, his wife, should not be allowed to get married. Because you don't know the mere fact that a person disappeared in such a lake, maybe indeed a wave took him away and he came up elsewhere and he's really alive. On this story, he calls Shmuel, Shmuel calls Rav, Lo Ye'una le'tzadik kol aven. You see a tzaddik, no evil befalls, as he didn't actually let her remarry. Koi Rav alei de Shmuel, v'tshuva b'raiv, yoyait, salvation lies in the council. Continues the Gemara, let's some stories of Mayim, she'ein lahem soif, in which we actually indeed, it occurred that what happened, the husband showed up. Tanya, we learned in a brayso about 25 lines on the bottom of this Amid, along lines over here. The first one, the line is this Shmuel. Tanya, Omar Rabbi Ma'aseh b'shnei b'nei Adam mikamrin. There were two people that were setting nets to Mechmiram b'Yardin in the Yardin River. V'nichlach achzmen l'mechila shal dagim. One of them went into some pond of fish. V'shaku chama, the sun seveloy ro, and they did not to see him, so he disappeared at ocean. And what happened? They didn't see the opening, and therefore this person goes into this burrow, goes to this area that he thinks there are fish, and he doesn't emerge. He loses his way. So his friend waits at the opening. The amount of time that he was assumed that person must have been nifter, and then he left. And he came and he told their house that the husband died and that the wife could remarry. Lamacha, the next day, Zarcha Chama, what happened? The sun shone, Vehikir Pischa Shamachila, and the friend who was stuck in some cave, didn't know how to get out, now with the strong sun sees the opening. Uban, he comes home, and what does he find? Umatza Hesbe Gadol B'tach Leisa, he sees that they're eulogizing him in his house. What a scary scenario. Amar Rebbe, Kama Gedolim Divrei Chachamim. From here we see the wondrous and incredible words of the Chachamim. Sha'amru Mayim Sheish Lem Soif Ishta Mutares She'ein Lem Soif Ishta Asur. We see in reality the words of the Chazal playing out. There was Mayim She'ein Lem Soif, so the wife should be Asur, because you never know, maybe the husband is indeed alive. Ask the Gemara, Yachi Mayim Sheish Lem Soif Nami Leichos Mechil Shal Dagim. Over here, it had nothing to do with Mayim Sheyesh or Ilam Saif, if you can see the end or not. Over here is because there was this burrow, there was this cave that he went into. So why are we always concerned about that? Explains the Gemara, Mayim Sheyesh Lem Saif Mechil Shal Dagim Lo Shchicha, a small pond, that's not a common case, and therefore you do not have to be concerned for such. Amar Ravashi, I Damar Rabana Mayim Sheyesh Lem Saif Ishta Asura, Hani Mili Bin Ishta Alma. When do we say that his wife is going to be Asur? That is to marry a regular man. Excuse me, that's if her husband was a regular person. But if her husband was a tzur me'rabban, if his husband was a Talmud Chacham, why? Because he disali kala islay. Because we were to know if it's a Talmud Chacham, if he actually was alive, we would find out about it. So if we didn't hear about it, we could assume that he really was nifter. But says the Gemara, this is not true. Important rule. Says the Gemara, it's not accurate. If it's a situation of b'diavad, if she went and she got remarried, well, let her stay remarried. But lechatchila, even if her husband was a servant of Rabbanan, we would not allow her to get married. Tanya says the Gemara, we learned in a Reis, Amar of Gamliel Pamach Zisi Mahalich B'Sfina. I was going on a ship. Risi Sfina Acha Shenishbun. I saw this is a famous Gemara coming up. And I saw Sfina Achas Nishbra, and I saw a ship that was broken and was sinking. And I was nervous about a Talmud Chacham on that boat. And who was that Talmud Chacham? Umani Rabbi Akiva. When it came on the dry land, and all of a sudden Rabbi Akiva emerged, and he came to learn with me. Amarti, Gamliel said, Loi, Bini, Mi'elcha, who took you out of the ocean? Amar Li, and here's the line that Rameir Shapiro used to quote as a source for the Daf Yomi, in which we learn each and every day. Says Rabbi Akiva, Daf Shel Sfina. It was a daf, it was a plank of wood of the boat. Nizdam Li, that occurred to me, V'chol gal v'gal shabo alai. And each and every wave that came upon me, Na'anesi Lai Roshi, I bent my head, and I let the wave go over me. So this daf of the boat is what saved him. Rameir Shapiro would say that the daf of Gemara has the power to save a Yid, save a Jew from the turbulent waters, from the waves that come to crush him. If Rishayim try to attack you, bend your head, let the wave pass over. How wondrous are the words of Chazal. A very, very famous Gemara. Hopefully you'll remember on the second last day of Yevamos, learning this incredible Gemara of the Daf Shel Sfina, the savior of the Daf Gemara. And I'm sure many of us have our own personal stories in which the Daf Gemara, the connection to Torah each and every day, is what indeed saved us. I'll remind ourselves all the way back, we were learning Gemara and Shabbos, how we used to repeat how Rav Chaim Kanievsky, unfortunately now it's Atzal, but back then he would tell people when they asked him for skulas at the very beginning of Corona how to be saved, he would say, a Daf Gemara, learn Shas. If you become a Shas Yid, then you'll be saved. And we had said at the time, anyone learning Daf Yomi is slowly becoming a Shas Yid, whether we remember, whether we know, but each and every bit is that Daf Shel Sfina that is saving us and allowing us to stay afloat from the turbulent waters of society around us each and every day. And now let's continue. Says the Gemara, 8 lines for the white lines. Tanya, we learned in a rice of Rebbe Kiva B'Mach Lizi Malik B'Sino, it's going in a boat. And I saw a boat wavering at sea. Meir. Shalisi the Medina Kaputkia. When I came to Kaputkia, Paviyasha Dan Lefani Balach Rav Meir appeared. Amarti Leibini. Mia Alichu took you up. Amar Ali Galtar Deni Lechaveroi Vechavroi Lechavroi Ashekini Liabesh Levasha. The waves pushed me one wave to the next, until it ultimately propelled me to dry land. Amarti Voisa Shah Kamagedolim Diri Chachamim Shamamayim Shishlaim Soif Ishta Mutares Mayim Shein Laim Soif Ishta Yasura. 3 lines to the end of this Amud Tanura Abanan. Nafal Igayva Rayos, if one falls into a den of lions, Ein Me'idin Alav, you cannot testify that he died because maybe he lived. Lechafura Melein Nechashiv Akrav, he fell into a pit full of snakes and scorpions, Me'idin Alav. Why not? As we turn over, Shema Chaver, maybe he's a snake charmer, maybe he is one. As Rashi says, Yodea Lilcha, she knows how to talk to the snakes, and he can save his life. Says the Gemara of Tanakama. So what does the Tanakama hold? Says the Tanakama, maybe he could talk to snakes, but Agav Itzisa Mazkile, he fell on the snakes. That's definitely going to get them quite angry, and therefore they're going to try to harm him. Tanu Rabbanan continues the Gemara in the second line of Kuf Chavalim Abeis. Nachaval Kivchan Eish Meidin Alav, that he died. Liyorim Le Ayayin V'Shemen Meidin Alav. He fell into a vat of oil and wine. You could also testify that unfortunately he must have died. Mishum Ravacha Amru Shal Shemen Meidin Alav Neshu Ma'avir, because the oil keeps the fire going. Shal Yayin Meidin Alav. You know why? Because he falls into the vat and the wine overflows. Neshu Machabek, to put out the fire. Amr Lo Tzchasa Mechaba V'Sefer Ma'avir. No, it eventually keeps the flame alive. Continues the Gemara, Ami Rabbi Meir Ma'isa Ve'echad Shnafal Bar HaGadol. There was a story with one that fell into the Bar HaGadol, and after 3 days he came out alive. Says the Gemara 8 lines down, Tanya Amr Rabbi Meir in Mazkirin Ma'isa Nisin. Don't bring me rayos from Nisin. Just the fact there was one crazy story is not a proof. Says the Gemara, my Ma'isa Nisin. If the story was that he didn't eat or drink or sleep for eat or Diloy Achel V'loy Ishti. If the story was he didn't eat or drink for 3 days, then that's the miracle. What do you mean? V'aksiv Esther Amalka said, "V'samu alive al tachlu al tishju for 3 days." Elod v'lonayim. You know what the miracle was? He didn't sleep for 3 days. If someone makes a shvua that he's not going to sleep for 3 days, we give him malchus, v'yashin altar, because it's impossible. For Rameir, so what does Rameir hold? It's not possible for someone to sleep not sleep for 3 days. My time, Amr, Afghana, keeping al gav keeping ave. The Rameir held that the story over there was that he fell into this big cistern, that there were arches in which he was able to rest upon and sleep. For Rabbanon, says the Rabbanon, an interesting response. Why couldn't he sleep on these arches inside this large pit? These arches were made out of marble and they were smooth, so you couldn't really lean on them. Rameir, but now you import. It says Rameir, as everyone probably could attest to, when you're tired enough, you find a way to lean onto something and doze off, and therefore that was the story over there. There was a story with the daughter of Nechunya, the ditch digger. This daughter fell into a large ditch. They came, they told her, Chanina ben Daisa, this daughter is in this pit and she's in the sakana. On the first hour, he said, don't worry about it. Shlishis. Also, go. She's out. She's not in sakana. Amar la biti mia lichos. They saw that indeed she emerged from this fall. They asked her, "Who took you out?" Amar la zachar shel rachalim, a pack of sheep. Nizdamin li v'zakim manhigo. Rashi explains is referring to the Ayel of Yitzchak Avinu and Avram Avinu because of her father's incredible chesed. Amar la Naviata. How do you know Rechlina ben Daisa? Amr Lam Rechlin Bay said, no, I'm not a Navi. Her father was the one who dug ditches. He was all to chesed. He helped everyone to have fresh water. Is it possible that his own daughter will stumble and get harmed by such a thing? Amar Rav Abba became Meis Benoy B'Tzama, the son died in thirst. And Amar Sviv Nisar Ma'oid Me'lam made a scary line. Shekadosh Baruch Hu Mizdakikim Svivav Kechot Asayra. Those who follow Hashem well, He judges with the finest of hairs. Achlin Amar Me'acha Al Naratz B'Sei Kedoshim Rabba V'Neira Al Koi Svivav. Hashem is the dread in the council, and He's awesome. Everyone surrounds Him. How careful we have to be, to even the smallest of actions. And now we begin another Mishnah towards the bottom of Kuf Chav Aleph on the base. Even if you hear the woman hacking, the woman talking, they saying, oh, this and this person died, that's enough. Rav Yehuda Aimer Afilu Shamin Atinoikos Aimer Mariu Anu Holchen Lisbon Blik Barzish Blind. You hear the kids talking. We're going to bury and go to a certain eulogy of a man. Bein Shu Miskavein, Bein Sheinu Miskavein. You believe the kids whether they intend to give Eidos or not. Friedman Baba Aimer Be Yisrael Afi Shu Miskavein. If it's a Yid, then we believe him even if he has intent to give Eidos. But when it comes to believing a guy, that the only time a guy can be believed regarding these matters is if he's not having intent to give proper Eidos. So ask the Gemara 1 second. What was the second case? The second case where the kids were saying that we're going to the eulogy and to bury a certain person. And that's enough to give Eidos to allow the wife to remarry. Ask the Gemara. But they're saying we're going to go. But maybe they didn't go. Maybe the guy never died. They're saying that we came from the burial. Ask the Gemara a fascinating question. Maybe the kids had a grasshopper. And the grasshopper died. And they called the grasshopper the same name, Yankel Shmerel. So when the kids are saying we're going to the grave, we're going to the eulogy of Yankel Shmerel, they're talking about their pet grasshopper. See what kids always used to play with. Says the Gemara, the Kamar, Kain v'Kain, Rabbanan Aviyasam. No, because you hear the kids saying this Rav was there, Kain v'Kain Saftani Aviyasam. So that's going to be enough. Continues the Gemara, when it comes to a guy, if he has intent to give Eidos, we do not believe him. We only don't believe the guy if he's coming with intent to let this woman remarry. But if the guy is just coming to give over his story, that's enough, we believe him. How do we know? Asked the Gemara. If a guy comes into Bezdin and says this guy died, let his wife remarry. The guy clearly is coming to let the wife remarry. But if the guy comes in and says this guy died, no, he's just having intent for Eidos, and then he would have credibility. It's Marnami, you learned a similar memra. Was such not the story in Ushia with Rebbe Shetirim Shmainim V'Chamishas Gainim with 85 elders. Amr Lahem, and he said to the elders, that the Goyim, if he has intent to give Eidos, we believe them. The Chachamim didn't admit. So seemingly now, like we just said if the guy comes in to give regular Eidos, he's believed. Do we see from this story from Rebbe? It's not true. What does that mean? What is the case that a guy, yes, has Na'manis? If the guy just was talking casually or off-handed remarks, then he is believed. And someone came in and he said, who is here from the house of Chavai? And what happened? Chavai has died. And Rav Yosef allowed from the fact that he just told over a story that this person that was nifter let his wife remarry. Another story says the Gemara 8 lines from the white lines. Someone was walking around, the guy was walking around and saying, who is from the house? Rav Nachman. No, I skipped. Incorrect. One more time. Violently, the Farshas read that the Shachet. Woe is the swift horseman in Bombadisa that he has died. And based on those words, Ben Siver Rav Yosef Etima Ravala Devisu to let his wife remarry. And a third similar story, Uda Avikamer Vazal Manika Be Chasai, who's from the house of Chasai. Tava Chasai drowned. Amar Rav Nachman Alakim Achle Kavri. On the Amar Rav Nachman Alakim Achle Kavri Lachasa. The fish ate Chasai. Mediburi de Rav Nachman Azal Debisu the Chasa ben Hasva. On the words of Rav Nachman, Chasa's wife went to remarried. Amru love He didn't say anything. He didn't tell her that she needs a get. He didn't tell her that she has to wait or anything. Amar Ravashi Shema Mina Adam Rabbanim Shin Lam Savish to Asura and immediately Lechatchila Avali Nasiv Loi Mifakninu. We see from this story that if she actually went and got remarried based on the words, we let her stay married. Ikit Yarmi and Nisva Rav Nachman Devisu. The other lashon says no. She allowed her lechatchila to get married. Amar Chasek Gavarabba Isa and Misa the Sali Kala Islay Lemilsa. V'loi loishna Gavarabba loishna lilav Gavarabba David in lechatchila loi. Says the Gemara, no. When the Rabbanan said it's not true, it's only going to be b'di'evet. But lechatchila, we're never going to let a woman get remarried based on such a story. We'll pick up the final daf tomorrow, as we'll conclude all the cases of the namanis of the guy, etc.